Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. The Sooners win, beating Texas 34-30. It was tremendous. It was awesome. My voice is blown. I was there. This is Steve.
Lucas.
Connor.
Jay.
You'll be able to tell who was there and who was not based on the sound of our voices. We were down in Big D, Connor and I. You may have seen the video afterwards. We were shocked. We were in awe. We were completely mesmerized by just one of the top performances. My 40th OU Texas, and this is a top 5 for sure. I don't want to have to try and choose among my babies, but this is one of the great ones. This was so tremendous and awesome. Before we get going, we're going to cover a lot of ground today. We're going to talk about the good and the bad. We're going to criticize. We're going to praise. And we're going to get into some real hyperbole about where these Sooners are headed. But first off, let's talk about Tobacco Exchange, our sponsor for the pod, for the post-game pods. As you know, 3 great locations throughout the metro area. Great selection, great staff, great prices. Every reason in the world to go there. Provided us with cigars for tonight. What are we smoking?
It's a Aladino Cameroon.
Excellent
It's a good victory cigar.
A victory cigar, exactly. One made for victory. Really, really appreciate Tobacco Exchange. So, guys, this was just, it was tremendous. And I'm going to start out by saying, when I look at my notes, I have a lot of notes that really talk about a game that started by trying, if you will, to steal defeat from the jaws of victory, where we were really struggling by leaving opportunities on the field, squandering our ability to sort of put the game in our favor, not necessarily away, but I don't know, we could have put it away.
Had a couple points out of reach, for sure.
And then we turn it around and we reverse it completely, and we steal victory from the jaws of defeat. It was just an unbelievable experience. I think, and I'll have to admit, I had my doubts right up until the point we catch the touchdown, and even then with 15 seconds, I thought it was scary, and it obviously was. But you talk about a turn of events in that stadium, it was so absolutely tremendous. What did you guys think? Watching it at home, Connor, what did you think from the stands?
I mean, Lucas sent us a good text after when he saw our video and said, Connor looks like he's just in shock, and that's completely what it was. I couldn't stop laughing, couldn't stop smiling. It was pure jubilation after we bat the final pass down in the end zone for the Hail Mary attempt, which even then I was nervous that they're going to find a way to pull this one out. But
it's just that kind of game. Could
you
imagine a Hail Mary catch?
We're almost always
it?
on that end of it with a last-minute touchdown. In my history, it's always we're losing. We're not winning those.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know, it was just, again, I'm in such a great mood. We're going into a bye week with a win like this. Like you said, Steve, there was some good. There was a lot of good. There was some bad. At the end of the day, and I think I've really liked this quote from Brent all season, is you go 1-0 this week, it doesn't matter how you do it. And that's exactly what we did. So I'm just beyond happy. I am coherent for those of you who were worried about me. It was a great day at the fair, great weather. This atmosphere, I don't know if I felt an atmosphere like this for an OU Texas game this is my 14th. I don't think I've felt anything like this since I've been going to the game. So it was
special.
It was electric. I mean, it was one for the ages, one that I definitely am never going to forget. It's going to be on the watch list for off-season previews and hype games that I get ready for this season for. So now overall, just an amazing victory for what seems to be an amazing team. So Lucas, Jay, how'd it look from TV from back in great state of Oklahoma?
I want to start off by thanking Team 129 for giving my mom a fantastic birthday present.
Oh yeah, happy absolutely.
Birthday.
Today's her birthday, and last year
Neva, I know we've had some differences. I know we've butted heads a couple times, but just know on the pod we do love you. I do love your son, regardless of what I think of him. But yeah, happy birthday.
We tolerate him.
Happy birthday.
Last year, my sister's birthday fell on her K-State loss on Game 4, I think, last year, or whatever it was. But so I was a little worried that this might be a trend of family member birthday losses. But today, my mom got the victory, so that's pretty sweet. Watching at home is always a mixed bag because I had mixed feelings because I love it and hate the game going to the Cotton Bowl. And so when not being there and feeling like we controlled most of the game, but then to give up there at the end to to give up the field goal to go down and then we've had our feelings about Gabriel all season, but the last couple games, dude's had a chip on his shoulder. He's performed. So going on that final drive to win it was incredible.
Agreed. It was absolutely awesome. My son and I were at home cheering as just loud as could be. He was jumping off the walls, particularly the first quarter. Just a good performance. Like we've been mentioning, there's good and bad to the entire game today, but you can't take anything away from the performance today. The defense was bend but don't break. We were relentless with our pressure, and
we bent there pretty far in the second half.
Yeah,
but man,
Gabriel. I've been a pretty big critic. There's still room to improve. There's still things he can get better at, but he definitely showed up today and cemented his name in Sooner lore.
Yeah, absolutely. Also a critic, also concerned about what his limitations are. But I set this as not just for Gabriel, but for the team, a benchmark game, a barometer of where we are, what our trajectory is, what we can achieve, and it's a milestone that we achieved, we accomplished. And both the team did as well as Dylan Gabriel. I'm delighted in what Dylan was able to do today. I would rate his performance in running the ball as an A+.
Absolutely.
His passing probably a B-. Some of that is play calling. We'll get into that. So there's some blame to go around, and that gets to some of the squandered opportunities. But when you have squandered opportunities, it means you're creating opportunities. And so there's a lot to be positive about in that regard too. And I'm a lot more optimistic about what this team can achieve with Gabriel under center and as a team because of what I saw today.
I mean, we talked about it beforehand. That's that environment to go in there his first time. I think at times he looked like he was maybe playing into it a little bit, playing into the noise and the hype, and at times it looked like it was a little bit much for him, just with some of the rush throws that I think he had, and it boils back down to some of the execution and maybe the lack thereof at times. But to be able to go in, that final drive was poetic. I mean, it was everything that you wanted to have. Everything that I've been wanting to see all come together. And we can credit some of that to maybe Texas playing a little bit soft, but regardless.
But he took what
Gabriel took what they gave him, and he executed it. And from the first pass of that drive to the very last pass where he finds where it looks like he's going down, getting sacked, and is still composed enough to see the open guy in the back of the end zone, Nick Anderson.
Oh,
what's
and
crazy
make a quality throw.
on that last drive, there was two plays for me that were very impressive. I think it was after this Stoops first down, Gabriel makes a very long, very far throw to the sideline.
I thought he threw it out of bounds.
To
Farouk.
I
thought he launched it out of bounds.
That was his arm strength usually isn't capable of making that kind of throw. It was a great read, great throw. And then the touchdown, I don't know how it was for you guys, but from on TV, he was swallowed in the
We
pocket.
saw it.
I don't even know how he got the ball off, to be honest with you.
He does some kind of strange disappearing act where he ducked his head and he pops up to find the receiver. It's phenomenal.
I'll tell you what happens in that play is Walter Rouse literally blocked two guys.
Yeah.
He had
Two hands. He had a hand on each guy's chest.
He had a hand on the defensive end, and then I don't know if it was a linebacker or whatever was coming around the edge, and he put his left hand out, and he literally blocked two guys at once. And I think Gabriel felt that one of them was going to get through, so he ducked down to absorb it. And then once Rouse blocked the second guy, he popped up and saw Nick Anderson in the corner.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I thought it was a sack.
It was so perfect. Ava was right down there in the student section. She saw it all. I mean, it was right in front of her. Those kids got quite a show there for the game-winning catch. Just tremendous.
An interesting play that probably no one's really going to think about or talk about or even remember years down the road. The Aaron snap that happens when Gabriel's not ready for it. It goes 20 yards past him.
Mm-hmm.
It
He
bounces
runs it
right
down.
back up to him,
He keeps
and
it.
he throws it away.
Yep.
That is a
Towards the
It
receiver.
is such a
Headsy.
smart veteran play. I mean, that is a game-changing, game-saving play. Like I said, we're not even going to remember it probably when we look back on this game. But that was a massive, massive play in this game.
That's a really good point, and it's a little stuff like that that probably goes unnoticed. We definitely notice a lot of the mistakes he makes, but we need to recognize things like that that go unappreciated and get forgotten, because you're right. In the history of this game, that will never come up in a highlight reel. As many great highlights as there were in this game, that won't come up. And what a tremendous college football game. Just everything about it was so awesome. To the back and forth, the various the swings in the score, the block punt, the turnovers, just so many things that were absolutely epic as a college football fan to sit and watch, and then to be the team, rooting for the team that's on the winning side of that is so amazing. It's hard to put it into words for sure. So let's talk about a few things that we feared. We mentioned on the pod early in the midweek that we feared might happen and actually came to fruition. So things we've talked about in previous pods. One of them was I worried about trick plays not working. We had several trick plays that did work. We direct snap to Farouk as a running back in the backfield, and that was great. That was awesome seeing that succeed. But we had several things that didn't work. One that I can't remember offhand that was early in the game before, I think, the block punt. And then we had the reverse on the kickoff that was poorly executed. And we come back and it puts us from a really good gain to having the ball deep in our own territory.
Yeah, I question doing that coming out of a play where they get a celebration penalty. And
That's when I said we should do it.
did you see? I disagree, because I think you've already got the field position because you're getting 15 yards already. So
I guess the reason it sets up well, though, it sets up really well because of where you are on the field. You're not catching it in the end zone. You're catching it on the 10 or 15-yard line. And so that's where you have that opportunity to do it. I mean,
I see it. I see it both.
I tend to think it's a good thing. You just got to execute it. So it worried me, but we overcame those mistakes.
Speaking of trick plays, how about the fake punt?
Ballsy.
What were we doing on that play that just allowed him to take the snap and just run it
They
to the corner?
overloaded that left side, and we did not adjust for
No,
it.
Yeah, we didn't adjust.
that was a play that a lot of people haven't even thought about really since the game, and
And that was a critical one. They
that
go
was-
down.
Our defense was stopping. We intercepted
Well,
the ball before, and
and then subsequently to that, we have the controversial fumble overturned, which
Yep.
we think technically shouldn't have been overturned because of how it was decided on the field. Regardless, we go down in the red zone and create a turnover and
There's a ball
interception,
don't
which
lie
was
moment.
great. Yeah, that's what Connor said. He said the ball don't lie.
I was like, that's karma. My dad texted us, that's a ball don't lie moment right there.
So we overcame a little bit, but you can't count on that. Texas, we worried that Texas would have success over the middle, and sure enough, they did. They had a lot of success over the middle. It seemed like, though, defensively, we were giving them that to make sure they didn't hurt us deep. Ewers hurt Alabama deep, and he did not hurt OU deep today. There was one, maybe two deep balls. One was, and then a third that was really well defended. Texas thought it was pass interference. We broke it up. That was great. But the success over the middle definitely gave them the ability to advance the ball and get it deep into territory. But again, we rose to the occasion and stopped them, holding them to field goals and causing turnovers, and having what we'll talk about in a minute was a tremendous four down on the
Goal line stand.
Goal line stand on the
first and goal from the one.
First and goal from the 2 or the 1, and then move
one.
them backwards.
Moved them back a
For
yard.
me,
Just
personally, that's I call it play of the game. It was a series of the game for me, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well,
That is
it's a defining moment for
No
the
just something-
defense.
And we come out and we take the ball down the field.
It's just something that we have been incapable of doing for a decade. And especially when they bring in the jumbo package, they bring in their 2-star defensive tackles to put in fullback position. And we have just not been built to be able to withstand a jumbo package at the goal line. And to rise up like we did, it was just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
It was, and it was every variety of thing that you face in that type of a situation, and yet in every aspect we stopped them. We stopped the jumbo package. We stopped the pass in the flat. We blew it up. Actually got there maybe late and still were able to stop Worthy from getting in. Just awesome.
We talked
Absolutely
a lot
awesome.
about the corners on those just wide receiver screens or whatever you want to call those, and then the get a running back in motion, immediate throw, and all season long we've done really well with getting a 2 or 3 yard loss on a lot of those plays because our corners have been so good.
Getting off
and
the
then
blocks.
today we did it again. Like that fourth down play is evidence right there on the goal line stand. But other times throughout the game it was there. Gentry Williams come up and make a tackle on a 2 yard loss on a wide receiver screen, and we were blowing up the blockers on those and getting to them.
So another thing we've worried about a lot was bad snaps. And we had several snaps that were up and to the right. In fact, one where Gabriel wasn't ready, and it sails way behind him.
He was snapping the ball so hard today. Which, I mean, like, it's just, maybe that's by design. Maybe that's how they're like, hey, this is how I want you to snap the ball to me. But if you're going to do that, it needs to be in the breadbasket every single time or exactly where Gabriel wants it. And it was...
There's no way he wants it to.
It was
his right
hitting him up
side.
in the shoulder multiple times, and I'm like, man,
And like Jay says, that's a tremendous play that Gabriel comes in and saves the day with a veteran move that could turn the game in a way that's extremely negative for us if he doesn't make that play. So we've got to get better at snaps, little things like that. But it was just little things. So many big things we did right. Other things that weren't going right to keep on sort of that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I want to touch on the snaps. So a lot of teams, what the center will do is he'll look underneath and see that the quarterback has given him the signal like I'm ready, and then the center snaps it when the center is ready.
Right.
We choose to do a clap. To me, we almost exclusively snap it right after the clap. I don't know that that's the best strategic way of doing that because
It's an
they
easy
are
way to
going
get
to know
timed.
the snap.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
an easy way to get timed.
it just to me it's interesting.
That's a good point. That's a real good point. It's a strategic decision we're making in our offense that could be giving away too much to the defense. I hadn't thought about it that
Because it's
way.
not like he claps and then 4 seconds goes by and the center's. I mean, it's pretty immediate.
Well, if you're a linebacker like Brian Bosworth, you key off on that. That's what he used to do. Is he knew when that snap was coming, and he'd start running because he knows when that ball's coming.
I mean, I think looking way ahead, someone like a Saban or a Kirby Smart or someone, they are going to absolutely use that to time plays.
Now, if you're really smart, you change it up for that game, thinking that then you take advantage of it. That's very difficult to do. It's difficult to get out of your rhythm and decide, oh, by the way, from now on, we're doing it differently, and you choose when to snap the ball. Because your offensive linemen think of when to go. Now, I noticed several times we were clapping, and it was a fake clap. So maybe that is an advantage that you get in that situation.
It still seems like
they know the real clap, and
I'm pretty sure the majority of the time it's a one clap and it's a
We
snap.
did a pretty good job, I feel like, earlier in the season of getting free plays by drawing them off sides the first couple games, I think. But the last couple, I don't think it has been.
And against better teams, you're not going to get them off
Right.
sides. Some other things that aren't working. Special teams. So let's start with punts. We need to punt the ball better. We need to punt the ball with some urgency, with some deliberateness, and we need a punter who can kick the ball. This is getting really frustrating, the fact that these punts are just way too short. But beyond that, you cannot take that amount of time. And I know there's missed blocks, and you don't want missed blocks, but that's going to happen. You've got to look and see what the defense is doing, and if the defense is lining up in a way they're coming, get the ball off.
Well,
Just
you're in the
know to
back
get
of the end
ball
zone.
off.
You're in the back of the end zone. Again, we talked about it during the game. I don't care if that's one situation where it's like 30-yard punt, fine. Just get it out.
Yeah, you don't take your traditional
Get it out.
time
Yeah.
steps.
And
It's a one-step kick.
and Jay,
Yes.
to allude back to your
Because 30 yards downfield is better than a touchdown.
yeah, to the argument that you made, I still don't necessarily agree I would trade, maybe our best second string guy for the best punter, but at this point, I'll trade something for a punter.
Like I've always said, put a running back there, a guy with a strong leg. Let him do something. Let him just kick the ball. Just kick it. I don't understand it. I think that it's a shortcoming and something that we're not recognizing. Another thing is we're not good at field goals, and those are critical in big games. They look like they were going to be really critical today. I look at it two different ways, or two different criticisms. One is you've got to be able to have a kicker you can rely on. And two, as a coaching staff, you got to have the numbers and know your kicker, not the average kicker, not the dream kicker, your kicker. Can he kick, and what likelihood is he going to have of hitting a 45-yard field goal?
What was the win situation in the stadium
None.
today?
Oh,
None.
basically none.
Pretty normal.
Basically none.
And that was a 44-yarder?
45.
45-yarder that was, 3 yards short?
At least.
3 yards short.
Yeah.
So
how does that happen
How does that happen?
for a
You've
Division
got to
I
know that's a
kicker?
very low probability kick. What's your chances of getting the fourth down, 4th and 4, versus kicking the field goal and getting 3 points? Expected value wise, I've got to think it's a lot higher to go for it
Well,
in
I'm
that
a super
situation.
fan of a pooch kick too. So
And that also could have been strong. So, line up with Gabriel and give him the option of, if you see, even if you have to give him the signal, run the play. If I give you this signal, if I don't, just quick kick it. And in both cases, you have probably gained an advantage that you otherwise definitely don't get when you miss a field goal as badly as we did. So that was problematic and frustrating. I thought I blame the coaching staff on that as much as anything. Any other things like that to nitpick, or things that we've talked about as concerns coming into this that we realized? I would say one thing that was a little frustrating to me was right at the end of the game, we were running guys on and off the field in a trying to figure out what defense we wanted right before Texas. We do stop them and cause make them kick a field goal. We let 25 seconds go on off the clock roughly before we ultimately end up calling a timeout. And it's our second timeout that we call because we called another timeout earlier in the second half that was critical.
No, that was the final drive where they go in. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, like you said, kick the field goal. Sorry.
It was a minute, and
it was less than 2 minutes on the clock.
A minute 29 to play on the clock. It could have been
minute 50.
A minute 50-ish, something like that. That was really a critical mistake on our coaching staff's part. That was a little bit frustrating.
So that goes along too with we ended up going up by 10, 27-17, and I believe we threw 10 straight passes. So I know there's a lot of game left, but you still need to milk as much clock as possible. Not to mention, we are still snapping the football up
Way
7
too soon.
with 24 seconds left on the play
There was
clock.
like 8 minutes left in the game, and we're snapping it at 18. We snapped it at 22. I'm not trying to only snap it and then punt, but there's literally at that point no reason. Our offense of running out there quick over and over isn't fooling anybody. Maybe it does wear the other team down at some point, but with a team like Texas that has the athletes, I don't think it is. And those minute and a half, 2 minutes worth of clock could have screwed us.
They could have.
It ended up helping us at the end of this game because then we did have a minute 15 left on the clock or whatever.
I was really on the fence about how worried I was about that at that point. There was about 8 minutes to go. You're up a touchdown. I could see the math being either way, that you don't know exactly what the situation's going to be. If you're up 14, it's a lot easier to say run clock.
Yeah.
If you're up 7, you need a touchdown about as bad as you need anything, and you may need enough time with the ball back. Kind of run your offense, but
The only reason though
I
is
don't
that gives me the reason why I wanted to run clock. I made a comment during the game for that exact reason. Our offense wasn't being super productive at that point.
No.
So I mean, after productive plays, I understand run your offense and try to find that rhythm again, but we weren't establishing rhythm. And it was before the drive. It was before the drive that they went down to score the tying touchdown. We get a couple of productive plays and then stall out, but we're still snapping the ball pretty early. I think that was with like 7 or so minutes on the clock still. I don't know. I
we
think
give
there's
the ball back with like 6.
I think there's something to be desired there. I think there needs to be a couple of conversations that happen to say. I mean, it looked like a team, and given we haven't been in a lot of situations where we've been in big games where we're having to try to figure out how to go and close them out.
Yeah.
Especially a game like that, where, as we've talked about, momentum is everything. So, I mean, I understand running your offense and trying to get in the end zone, but I don't know.
I would imagine your game plan
see both
is, and maybe
sides.
this is unrealistic based on our prior comment, but your game plan there is get down and kick a field goal to go up by 10 points with about 3 minutes to go. And that means probably run some clock to get you in that position so that they've got to score 2 touchdowns in 3 minutes, or 2 scores in 3 minutes. And that puts them in a much more difficult situation.
I think a great chess match that was going on today was Sarkisian. He changed up a little bit what he does, and he was running more hurry up than they're used to. And you could see that our defense was not set. Like
Yes.
maybe that
Yeah.
whole late third quarter, early fourth quarter.
Our guys are still
Our
lining up at
guys
the line of
were not
scrimmage.
ready
Yep.
No.
for the play to be called. So he's got us, it's probably hypercritical, but you have to just kind of be okay with maybe what you call.
what you got, yeah.
Because our guys were standing up on some plays.
with their arms up, saying, "What do we do?" And
I mean,
they're,
the
and they're
D-line
turning. Well, one
didn't
time
even
they
have
weren't
their
even
hand in
they
the
weren't
ground.
even set.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just
Yeah.
But good on Texas. I'll give them credit for that, for figuring that out or knowing BV's tendencies. And then on the other side of the ball, for us, I was impressed with the fact that we knew we could wear them out by simply not changing personnel.
Yeah.
And it worked for us.
It did work.
Because there were several times where we probably wanted to change personnel. We probably needed a running back to come out. We probably wanted Stoddard to come out for somebody else, etc. But they were getting gassed. And you just keep going and going and going.
Well, and that's the kind of thing where even though, in our opinion, Stogner is not a great option at all, but if he happens to be in there, he's better than you just don't go away from him. He's better than a substitution that allows him to get fresh legs in there.
On the Tyree Walker touchdown that made it 17-14, Stogner had a pull and blew the guy up to make that touchdown happen. I can't remember which end zone. Was that in the Texas end zone to make it 17-14?
I think that's right.
Or was that the second quarter? I think it was the second quarter. But on watching the replay of that, Stogner literally came across like a pulling guard and blew this dude up that allowed Walker to punch it in the end zone. And then Stogner, did he have one catch?
No, he had more than that.
He had like 3.
Do you have
Yeah,
a-
I'd say a three
or
and
4.
3 and a drop,
I can
or
look that
3
up.
and a
I got the box score here.
Gabriel kind of bowled into
Yeah,
him.
a poor throw by Gabriel.
Let's see. Stogner finished with 3 for 24. He had an 11-yard catch. That was a really, really solid catch.
It was a solid catch.
So as much as we've been down on him, that one block sealed the touchdown for us, and then the couple catches did move the chain, so that was nice. Let me look at my notes. I had something else. Oh, did y'all see Gabriel's hand bleeding profusely?
Yeah, could you guys see that?
We couldn't see it.
His right hand, after he got, I don't think he got sacked. He just got hit after a throw.
That was after the play where it went, the snap went past him.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
where it happened.
Yeah. So he comes up, and his right finger is just bleeding all over the place, and it was crimson last I checked.
That's right,
So
baby.
Dylan Gabriel does bleed crimson, so
I love it.
That's good to know.
And he went down and got a touchdown on that drive, so that was pretty impressive.
Yep.
We'll take that all day. I don't want to really be an advocate of bloodletting, but if that's what it takes to beat Texas,
I thought for a minute that once he went back out there that they may put Arnold in just to get Dylan's finger cleaned up.
Yeah, because the next series they had it bandaged up.
But they went ahead and finished that series.
Yeah, that was something.
It was. I just again taking a step back. It's just that game was so full of theatrics.
I mean, we saw it all. We saw a
Every
block punch for a
turn.
touchdown. We saw
Wild.
fake fake punts. We saw game-winning drive. We
Whoever
saw
wrote the script to this game,
terrible punts,
sick mother effer.
I mean, missed
Yeah.
field goals. It had
Everything.
everything except for a safety, essentially.
Yeah, except for a safety. Great turnovers, great goal line stand, great epic drives for both teams. So both teams left points on the board, so to speak. I think OU left more on the board. Texas missed some opportunities. Obviously, deep in the red zone several times, either settling for field goals or not coming away with any points is pretty bad. With turnovers or stopped on downs.
Great hit by Bowman.
Great hit by Bowman. Absolutely tremendous hit to cause the interception. So
The defense pass rush today was phenomenal. Ewers didn't look comfortable the entire game, and we talked about that in the pregame pod.
how many hurries do you think there were?
There
were five sacks,
We had
I
5
believe.
sacks, and
They only had
A
one
bunch of
sack
hurries.
and 2 hurries on record, and this was a vaunted Texas defensive line
Yep.
with NFL guys.
they had their way
And
with Bama.
our line,
five sacks with 10 tackles for loss.
yeah, and
Yeah.
our line was, it has been questionable. We all haven't been. We've been happy with pass protection, but not run protection.
Yeah.
But still, to come out of this game with 1 sack and 2 hurries for your offensive line, and conversely, like you talked about, we pressured them all day.
Yeah. Ewers never got comfortable. And like I said, in the previous pod we talked about, that was one thing that he does have problems with when he gets uncomfortable. He does tend to sail the ball or, throw it down to where a defender can tip it up and who knows what happens. And
And that's what was going to be so frustrating about them when I thought they were going to win the game is because, Sarkisian did draw up a really, really good second half offensively. He didn't let that pass rush that we had affect them because they were getting the ball out so fast. They were running a lot of play action, immediate quick slants, or just dump off routes over the
seam route
middle.
right up the middle.
Yeah, that seam route. Oh my gosh, man, that's killer.
Yep.
So he made a really, really good
And we
halftime adjustment.
We tend to think that the giving up the across the middle, which we worried about, was maybe more of our game plan to not get beat deep. But I will say I agree with you, Connor. Their adjustments may have been better than our adjustments at halftime. And you mentioned, and I wrote it down, you mentioned during the game, Connor, that Sark had it dialed in on that last scoring drive for Texas. He had it really figured out. But even with that, even with on the last second drive to try and win the game after we take the lead to go ahead to win it, we were in a very bend, don't break. And we did. We bent and we did not break. We forced them, even with a very frustrating unsportsmanlike conduct that gave them a first down, we forced them to kick a field goal at the end of for their last scoring drive. We stopped them when we had to stop
Force them to kick a field goal with time on the clock.
That was great. And really parallel into that, Ewers, I think he had his best game of the season, maybe his best game of his career. He was hitting passes. He was doing everything he needed to do against a defense that was really challenging him, and we won. Since
you guys were there, you probably weren't aware of the stat, but I think he completed 19 passes in a row, which is a record. And
wow.
He went 31 for 37.
Yeah.
It was.
He hit 19 in a row.
What was his QBR?
and he threw 2
His
interceptions.
QBR was only 75.8.
What was Dylan's numbers?
Dylan was
He's a-
23 of 38 with a 93 QBR.
He's the first OU player to throw for 250 yards and run for 100 yards against Texas,
Wow.
which is shocking after Kyler Murray, the comeback
Yeah.
in the 2018 game. I would have bet you anything that he would have had
that many
250
yards
passing and 100.
And Kyler had like a
He had a
70-yard
60-yard
touchdown
run. Yeah,
Well, he
he
must
had-
have had the running and not the passing.
Yeah.
So he was, I think Dylan today was the 4th most yards against Texas in history. The others, almost all of them being recent guys.
Yeah,
Baker,
Kyler,
Jalen.
Yep. Baker twice, I think, was
So
on that list.
tremendous. I mean, I wrote it down. DG was clutch in the final drive. He was absolutely clutch.
With his arm
And
with
Levy
his
was
legs.
clutch.
Yep.
Everything was clutch in that final drive.
Being able to run the ball on designed quarterback draws, essentially, where they had the running back out blocking for, he may fake the handoff, and then the running back was pushing up the middle, and Gabriel was able to follow the running back or the left tackle or whatever. That last year we didn't really get to do because we had no backup. This year you do have a solid backup, so you're able to do that a little more, and it seems like we saved it for the most part until the last couple games. We've kind of busted it out, and that was the difference in winning and losing today.
Absolutely.
Was
Yeah.
Gabriel's rushing yards.
Our run game, our traditional run game with running backs is still a work in progress.
not there.
It's got to get better.
Some of it's the scheme. Like, we're just running guys up the middle with no special blocking. We don't have the GT counter or anything of the previous era. And it seems like man on man, these guys just aren't great run blockers, and we don't utilize the edges.
And we're not running anything off tackle.
other than throwing to a receiver as a quote unquote run play, essentially. But when Farouk lined up in Wildcat,
he makes a move.
he was getting yardage with no problem, but you also have that extra blocker back there, which is essentially the same as the Gabriel running plays, which makes me wonder why in the hell we don't have a fullback, or, I don't think Stogner's a guy. Maybe Blake Smith can learn to be a better blocker in a fullback role in situations, or even goal line where you put. We saw Texas bring out 2 defensive linemen or whatever.
Again,
trying
put
to push it
Kanik in there. Put something in there. Like,
Put Farouk in there.
yeah.
Run a 2-back set where you've got Farouk and Sawchuk. You got 2 speedsters.
I'm not expecting diamond formation like we used to get that we all loved, or P. Ryan Mixon
There
back there
are
together.
options.
I'm not expecting that, but to only when you've seen it for 5 games previous that we cannot run the ball up the middle, and then we continue to just run the ball up the middle for 2-yard gains, it makes me wonder why we don't try to get somebody to the edge,
Right.
like a stretch play or something, because
Right.
our receivers have shown that they can block.
Yeah.
So,
they're
why
great.
is it not? Maybe you have Stoops in the slot closer to the line, and you run a stretch play his direction, and he's the lead blocker essentially.
Yeah.
On a corner, and then if a linebacker fills the gap, that's the only guy you really have to worry about, or else it's an 8 to 10 yard game.
And that's something we've talked about as well, as Stoops is the man. Stoops is he's a baller. He's a game maker. And obviously it came through on that last drive where he's
catch,
just
run.
essential
Yep.
in so many of those. The first 2 plays are to him. He's the go-to guy. Make him either the go-to guy or the go-to blocker, and let him lead the way and open something up. I think all the way back to something 20 years ago with the little bubble screens, 2 fast receivers, and your receiving core is doing all the blocking.
Yeah.
That and maybe a pulled lineman because it's a pass behind the line and they can be down the field. But either way, the action is down the field, not right there contained at the line of scrimmage.
Well, back to your point on the last drive, it's been a while. I say a while. It's been a couple of years since we got that ball with 1:17 on the clock with no timeouts. I thought the story was written at that point, right? It's been a while since we've had somewhere where I didn't have faith that this offense could go 75 yards in that amount of time. I was hoping for a field goal.
Yeah.
But I definitely was not expecting to go win the game.
I was hoping for a field goal with
wasn't,
my
because-
doubts about
about making it.
overtime. I was
Yeah.
never.
I
It
had
would
doubts
have
about
had to been a
making-
field goal within the 20-yard line.
Yeah, we would have had to
within
get
the red
to
zone.
the 20 for a
absolutely.
37-yard field
absolutely.
goal to even have any kind of faith that it was going to be made.
It was so. It's just amazing to see us do it, because it used to be you really had a lot of faith that if we had a minute or 2 minutes, we could get a score.
Plenty of time. Yeah.
And that was with some of the most tremendous offenses and tremendous quarterbacks you'll ever see. We have an offense that is getting better, but is not there yet. And we were able to do it. We
Yep.
pulled it together, and we did it with stuff that was, like we said, getting what the Texas defense was giving you, not throwing it up and getting lucky with a deep ball or something like that. We came down the field, and I mean, 2 of those are runs by Gabriel that are just tremendous. To get one of them's to get him into Texas territory, and the other is to get you deep into field goal territory.
Into the red zone,
When
yeah.
you then know your options are in front of you, and yet we stayed aggressive and didn't settle for some idea of a field goal. Something I said to Connor on the way back, I said, is it a blessing that we missed that field goal so badly that we knew we couldn't count on that?
Yeah.
And so we knew we had to get a touchdown.
How did Stoops get so open on the long play?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Their
I don't
safe-
There was
their-
nobody around
Their
him on
safeties
TV.
were playing soft in the back.
Yeah,
to get
just
big.
I
that
don't-
conventional defense that every single team in the history of football has ever tried. It just doesn't work.
The prevent.
It's shocking to me.
I think it does work.
It does not
until
work.
it doesn't. No. I think it does work
never
until
worked.
it doesn't, because you're trying to not get beat deep, but you're not trying to necessarily give up the pass. And they gave up the pass. That's the error of the ways. And we had our own doing the same thing today, where they had lots of success over the middle. I'm sure if you talk to Brent or someone who would tell you, well, no, we're not trying to let them catch that ball. We're trying to make sure they don't catch this other ball. But we're trying to stop that ball too. It's just that one's the more likely one they're going to get.
Lucas, you had some notes, right? What else you got?
We've gone through most of them. It was an amazing start with Gentry almost dropping that interception to start the game. You probably couldn't see it from your seats, but he got a hand on
Oh, we
it,
could
and then
see
he
it.
lost it,
Yep.
and then
And
caught it
recovered
as
it.
he went to the ground. And obviously that jump started the whole game.
I was
right
scared
off
you
the
didn't
bat.
get the catch. You get
Yeah,
the
it was
interception.
close.
What was so honestly shocking about that,
He had one interception the whole season.
but I mean, he stood back there and looked that direction. I mean, he absolutely stared it down.
telegraph-
He stared it
telegraphed
down
it.
as much as I've ever seen anyone stare down a throw in my entire life.
Oh, in your entire life? Come on.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
It felt like a full 5 seconds. He was just like looking at one guy. Oh, he makes his cut. I'm going to throw it.
But
And
again, we talked about it. So we have 12 interceptions now, and we forced a fumble. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually,
think-
forced 2 fumbles, but one of them didn't count.
I think
But-
I think the stat I saw tonight is we have the most turnovers through 6 games since like the 0-2 defense, or the second most since the 0-2 defense, and we have the most interceptions, or tied with the most interceptions since the 2000 defense.
I mean, this is beginning
Wow.
to feel a little bit like that. What was it? The 2011 OSU team
Yeah.
that led the
Just flying
country
the
in
ball.
turnovers.
Yeah.
Because
And I
they were in the
love
right
that
place at the right time, and it wasn't just gimmick.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just happenstance. It was
I love
they
that
forced
strategy.
the turnovers.
I've been preaching it ever since they did it. It was a max aggression defense because they had an offense that could score, and they knew it. So they said, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go for broke,
Yep.
and we're going to try to stop you. And if we do, it's going to be a tremendous stop. If we don't, we're going to come score on you as well.
And in the Iowa State game, we gave up 2 big touchdown plays on stuff like that. But we also came back after that pod and said, we'll take away those 2 plays, and we dominated this game. But also, we made them turn the ball over and other plays that kind of made up for
Yeah.
giving up the 2 big
Yeah.
touchdowns. And we really didn't give up any major long plays other than a couple of the seam routes today. But we forced 3 turnovers. Could have been 4.
One thing that I'm going to spin to be a real optimistic take, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things I anticipated seeing, and I do not think we saw, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we would see a lot more creativity and blitzes and different packages that I don't think we saw. My spin is we didn't have to
We
do
didn't
that.
need to do it.
We didn't
need it.
resort
Yep.
to it, and we still had great success, which is tremendous. It's what you really want, is to be able to run your base defense against your best opponent and have success.
Texas lost their center early on in the game, which I'm sure affected some of their play calling. And then I think, did they lose another lineman later in the game?
No, I think it's just
It was
him.
just the center. It seemed like they had another injury later. But, yeah, we didn't see any crazy stunts and, corner blitzes like we've used in the past. It was man on man, and we dominated. When Texas was supposed to be the trench team, and it was us.
It was us.
Did we see anything? Speaking of injuries, did we hear anything back on Andrel Anthony?
No, it didn't look like a knee. It looked like an ankle issue.
My tire went off in an air cast, and his X-ray was negative. I did see that. Gentry wasn't in there for the final drive.
Yeah.
But I saw him running down the sideline, like high-fiving and getting super excited.
He was in post-game interviews too.
So yeah, I
Did
think
Did
he's
Bowman
all right.
come back out? Was Bowman out there for the last couple minutes?
I believe he was.
I assume.
Because he had that collision.
Yeah.
We
and
thought it might be a
I was
concussion.
thinking it might have been a concussion of some
No.
kind.
No, I missed that. If that was the case there.
That's right. Yeah, when
And to mention,
when the Texas fans booed him because he was hurt on the field.
Right. They thought it was that he was just faking it. Injury.
It was like Cincinnati did again with Canick, who had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right. We
'Cause
would
he's
not
bleeding-
fake that injury. We would not
bleeding
fake
from the
one of our
insides.
best defenders going down. It's not going to happen. that way.
Props to the offensive line in general, but Caden Green came in
Yep.
and manned up that our left guard was getting pushed around early, like shoved back into Dylan, and Caden Green, true freshman, came in playing against NFL defensive tackle and held his own and moved him for most of the game. So I think Caden Green has probably cemented himself as a left guard for the remainder of the season.
And that's the side Dylan was running, especially on that last drive. On those called quarterback draws, he exclusively ran left, towards the left guard. And so if Green's in there at that age dominating a NFL defensive tackle,
Good things to come.
that poses well for the future.
And he's a tackle, right?
Yeah.
I think next year he'll be
He'll move
a left
over.
tackle.
Right.
Or if something happens to Rouse, I think there's a good chance that they'll kick him back out to left tackle. But cross your fingers. It's interesting how the offensive line comes together sometimes based off of an injury or two or opportunities.
Need.
Yeah. There's
No,
a
I think
chance
it is.
our O-line might, we'll see what happens with Matower.
So that makes me think of something that I wanted to point out as a criticism of Lebby a little bit on a play call, and get back to a little bit of what I think is a mistake on risk-return analysis. So I was criticizing the decision to kick a field goal from 45 yards out, a 45-yard field goal, where you could go for it on 4th and 4. Later
Everyone in
in the
our
game,
section is saying and kick the field goal, and we're saying go for it, go for it, go for it. We can't make that. We can't make that.
well, later
We didn't.
on, we got a 4th and 2, and it's a short 2. I think it was 4th and 2 technically. And instead of what I would like to see, which is either a power run or roll Dylan out to his left where his strength is, give him a run pass option with a guy running out with a little waggle option, and Dylan can either toss it to him or run for the first down. He has to throw against the grain, against his body, to Stoops, who's going on an out pattern to the far side, what ends up being the far side from the way the action was. And it's incomplete and didn't get the first down,
It
obviously.
wasn't even close. Like, he
Wasn't
had to
even
do like a
close.
pirouette to try to catch
And
it.
it was a poorly thrown ball.
Yeah.
That's and there's and to,
I don't
to DJ's
understand
credit,
that.
there's not a lot of quarterbacks who can make that throw. There's a handful of quarterbacks probably in the league right now who can consistently make that. And
Well,
even when they make it, it's impressive. Like
And
you don't,
it's
you don't
just
do
the
that.
first down.
Just don't do that.
It doesn't give you a lot of options. I'd rather see something that if they make a mistake, like when Texas went for a 4th down and scored a touchdown off of it, that they line up in something that, hey, heads we get a touchdown, tails we don't lose so badly. We may still get the first down. That was
Give yourself a chance.
all your chips on
yourself more
one
of a
number.
chance.
It was very very frustrating from that standpoint.
I have another small criticism. When he throws the running back swing pass to the right, he threw one to Major and just completely whiffed.
Too far in front of him.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Major's
not to him.
swinging out there, and he throws it a yard and a half in front of him. Doesn't even give him a chance to catch it.
Completely going away from
And
his
then
momentum.
it seems like there was another one that he threw that they had to adjust on the swing to catch it. And then by the time you adjust, you're losing a yard or maybe getting back to line of scrimmage. and the running back swing passes, and it's almost exclusively when he throws to his right that it just is rarely a good throw.
Yeah.
So you would think in practice you would see that he's not making that throw.
Don't call it.
And don't call it in the game. Or throw the swing pass to the left,
Yeah.
which is his more natural direction because he can take the snap and
Look
he's
that way.
left-handed.
One thing we saw today too, I mean, and maybe it's the atmosphere, the environment, but Gabriel just doesn't have the touch a lot that you need between. It's either he's rifling the ball, or it's just there's not enough on it type of thing. There's not a lot of. I only have to throw this ball 75% of my full strength to get it where I need it to go.
And then later on, he was throwing 75% when he needed it to be there, and he had 2 batted balls on that one drive.
that
it
was
was just
that
a
was
stalled out drive.
lackadaisical.
Did we stop them on 4th down, and we had great field position?
And we go three
squandered
and
it.
out.
Just
Yeah.
went 3 and out. So
No, that was after the Peyton Bowen forced fumble.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
Yes.
We get the forced fumble around midfield, and we
didn't do much with our
completely don't do
turnovers.
anything with it.
Other than the first
On
one.
Other than the
one.
first one,
Yep.
we didn't do anything.
Well, we did a lot with the second one, and that we stopped
But-
the Texas score.
Yeah.
And I think we went down and.
No, they blocked a punt.
Oh, that's the block punt. You're right.
Texas
You're
was
right.
3 or 4 on 4th down today, and the one that they missed was the most important in the goal line stand.
Yeah.
And then obviously the fake punt that they got. But so they had 2 others that they had 4th and 2 or 3 and went ahead and picked up.
Well, I'll say something else about the atmosphere just to make sure it gets mentioned. And having gone to a lot of these, I know I mentioned it, a lot of OU Texas games, I'll say one thing as a kind of, salute to Texas or whatever. Unlike in years past, they are showing up early. They're filling the stands early. They used to be notorious for not coming to the game. It's like, are their fans going to show up? They're showing up. And I will say, and it was confirmed by others sitting other places in the stadium, I think they were clearly louder than us.
They were freaking
so
loud.
They
were so loud.
They were so consistent. They were much louder on defense than we were. I feel like it was a little shell shock or PTSD or something on our part that we're waiting for a mistake.
Yeah.
And we don't have enough faith that we can stop, and we need, as fans, probably to have more faith because we weren't giving our team the support that they were giving their team. Very impressed by that from their standpoint. Another thing that was interesting, and it isn't too surprising because I don't know if you got the memo, but Texas is back, baby. They they bought a lot of tickets in our section. The entire OU section had
there was
a
a lot
lot
of
of orange in
Yeah.
it. And that just shows that they had a lot of faith in what they were able to do and what they were going to achieve. And I want to see us get back to believing in our team in a way that Texas apparently believes in theirs. Not that the fan base was bad by any means, but it is surprising to see that swing. And they are definitely the team that coming into this game felt like they were the number 3 team in the nation. And we were a team showing up to try and thwart them.
Well, and I said it on the way back. I mean, this felt like those early 2000, even 08, 09 OU Texas games where it's 2 juggernauts of teams meeting and just throwing haymakers at each other until the game's over. And it's from start to finish, right?
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of lopsided scores in the last 20 years. But
And OU's been on the
winning side on
those.
most of those.
And by the
on
way,
all of them except for one, I think. But it was just, it felt, it was so nostalgic. I mean, it was like prime for what we're about to head into next year going to the SEC.
in the last 15 OU Texas games, and that includes the Big 12 title game, we are 11-4. So all this, Texas is so much better than us. The recruiting is top 5 every year, and we're top 10. And they've got all the athletes. They've got all this money. They're bringing in the great offensive coordinators and blah 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 all the time, and we're still dominating them.
We are dominating them.
It's not bedlam yet, but it's getting there over the last 2 decades.
Well, yeah, if you run the numbers, I mean, since 1950, since the 70s, obviously, since in the Stoops era, and like you say, in the last 15, we are dominant. We are absolutely dominant. And we need to play like the dominant team and act and carry ourselves like the dominant team. I think we did more of that today than, frankly, we did in many years of the Lincoln Riley era. When you saw in 2018 where we were half a team and we barely lose that game, we had, I would say, an arrogance about us that was undue. Right now, we need to start getting not arrogance, but we need to start getting some attitude that we are the dominant team and we can achieve more, and we got more going for us than they do. They're resting on their laurels. And the way I like to say it is OU is ascendant. What we saw today is OU take the next step to the next level, and I see a lot of things that we're building on to get better. We're talking about all kinds of criticism. It's where OU can get better, and OU is going to be better. I've got a lot of optimism about where we're headed, and I think Texas is on the same type of trajectory.
Yeah,
but
I bet the SEC is not very happy. Some of those.
Sankey seemed pretty happy today,
Well,
even after the game, because he's looking at shots. He's like, "Damn, we're adding
those middle of
two
the
of the
road
best-
teams, though.
two of the best
those
top
middle
10
of the road
teams in the
SEC
country."
teams
They're gonna
are
get
not
destroyed.
happy that OU and Texas are coming in.
Yeah, the A&M, the Florida.
Well, honestly,
When Texas goes and beats
South
Bama,
Carolina's-
and then OU shows up and we do what we did today, everyone took notice.
absolutely, and I love it. I think it's awesome, and I'm very optimistic from that standpoint.
And I'll give Sark credit. He has Texas going in the
He's
right
good,
direction.
man.
He
He's
is.
good.
I don't
like him.
They have a
I think
different
he's
attitude.
A freaking goofball, but
They
he's
carry themselves
pretty damn good.
differently.
They've got
They're
well,
obviously recruiting well, but they're getting, some of recruiting is just getting the right guys too, not just highly ranked guys. Like
Yep. Lincoln
Lincoln Riley didn't get the right guys all the time. He kind of took
the numbers.
what some of the numbers
The
said
stars.
you should take, and I think, unfortunately or fortunately, if you're just a fan of football in general, Texas is going to stay good. And
Well, I think Sark, I mean, if I'm going to handicap it, I'm going to say he is the best coach they've had since Mac,
Yeah.
clearly. He's got it together, and that's
has
with all of
resources
his
around him as
goofiness,
well.
but he does. He's got it together. And I don't put a lot of stock in some of this stuff that they do, but they did all go together and do the Texas whatever fight song at the end of the game after losing to the student section. And he's got some coherence there and some morale building that is important, and you've got to have that. So I think Texas is a bigger threat today than they legitimately were under the past two regimes, and maybe bigger than they were under the end of the Mac Brown era. So we'll see. There's a couple different things then prediction-wise and where we're headed I'd like to talk about. OU won today. They beat the number 3 team in the country. We're number 12. What should OU's rank be, and what will OU's rank be tomorrow when the polls come out?
I think you had 6, 7, and 8 were all idle. You had number 10 Notre Dame lose. We've got the USC game on now. They're about to take the lead probably, even though
In the late third
they've
quarter.
had some junk calls go their way on some interferences and holdings not being called, of course. But
I don't see how
I
we
don't
don't
see
jump
how we don't jump at least to
USC.
5.
I'm with you. So tell me what you think we should be, and tell me what you think they will be.
I think 5 and 5.
I think we should be number 3. I think we will be number 5. I think we should jump Florida State. I think we should jump Ohio State. I really do. I mean, the win that Ohio State had at Notre Dame is diminished now with another Notre Dame loss at what seems to be an okay Louisville team. I mean, they're undefeated. That's on the road, but I think we're better than I think our win is better than the Ohio State win at Notre Dame.
it's the best win of the season.
I think
Absolutely.
so. I think so. I definitely. I think Michigan is the best team in the country. I think Georgia made somewhat of a statement today against somewhat of a fake Kentucky team. I think that Kentucky just kind of fell into their number 14 ranking where they were at. I don't necessarily think that I would put us above Georgia just because of what they have on their team. I think
but the voters are not going to do that.
No, but I think it should be Michigan, Georgia, Oklahoma. I think the rankings when they come out tomorrow will be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Oklahoma.
What do you think, Jim?
You're probably exactly right. A frustrating part of these rankings are, 3 and 12 aren't that far apart, especially when all the teams are there undefeated. You should easily be able to make a jump from 12 to 3 if you just beat 3.
Absolutely.
It's just not that big of a deal.
Yep.
It's not like
It's
you have a
reasonable.
couple of losses and, we're going to jump you over a bunch of other people. I mean, let's say USC finishes this game out tonight and wins.
Which they will.
You easily should jump them.
Yeah.
I mean, you have literally the best win of the entire season because the praise that Texas got for going into Tuscaloosa and winning vaulted them to where they're at.
Yeah.
And then they beat a Wyoming team that nobody watched, and they move up a spot in the rankings even further.
When no one got beat above
right,
them.
in this big of a game, you should have no problems with just swapping spots.
I mean, Penn
Absolutely.
State's a 6. Their best wins like West Virginia.
Yeah.
Washington has looked incredible.
They don't have any big wins.
They don't have any big wins, but they've blown everybody out.
We'll see what Washington is next week when they play Oregon.
Yeah, that's going to be deciding. One of those teams is dropping.
And then one of those teams next week will move above Oklahoma after that game, in my opinion.
So
Probably.
here's my view. I very much agree with you, Connor, and I agree with everything everybody's saying. Actually, Jay, I think you're exactly right. There's a behavioral bias that comes in to this, like it does in so many things, and that is people refuse to change their mind. There's an endowment effect. They've made a decision about where things should be, and they base it on past information. And I mean past in terms of past seasons that aren't relevant. They need to be willing to know this is small sample size. And so volatility right now should be tremendous. What do you have to go on?
It should be encouraged.
It should be encouraged. And the only thing you have to go on is record and big games. And we've got both in our favor. Right now we're one of only 2, maybe after tonight, 3 teams with a 6-0 record.
And that's the thing. I think it actually.
And we have the best resume win among everybody.
Yeah. I think that is one thing with all of its flaws. We have seen the College Football Playoff Committee do with those first rankings that come out, where a lot of the time they will go against the grain of the AP to say, looking at the holistic view of what's happened this season, they're not taking into account the fact that Georgia
Two-time champion.
is
It doesn't matter.
two-time defending
It shouldn't
national
matter. It
champion,
shouldn't matter.
and they're undefeated right now. They do somewhat look at, and that's why I think that's why we used to get so pissed off when Lincoln was our coach. It's like, look at us putting up all these points, and what we're undefeated. Why are we number 9?
Right.
And
We're number 9 because they're looking at it.
Exactly. So I mean, I do. There is something to be said for that. But Steve, to what your question is, you think we should be 3, we will be 5?
Yeah, that's my guess.
Yeah.
So I'll be pretty frustrated if we're not 5. And I'll tell you another thing that's a bias factor that works in our favor. We played on the biggest stage today. Had we not played on it, if for whatever TV reason, economics, reason, this had not been the premier game, and if ESPN had already chosen to do game day somewhere else, you would not get the votes we will get because we happen to be there. And truth be told, there's something to being Oklahoma Sooners. And when you're one of the traditional powers, you're going to get more credit than you otherwise would get. I'm not saying you don't deserve it. I'm saying lesser teams wouldn't get it. And so I do think we'll get to that number 5 ranking because of that. But we won't get to number 3 because they just won't. They refuse to basically say, I was wrong before, and now I'm going to completely change my rankings which is totally reasonable based on evidence that I've actually witnessed watching the games.
I mean, this is what's so silly is, there's a chance that Texas is going to fall behind Bama in the ranks.
Which is wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, Bama's at 11. They won today.
They barely won today.
Yeah. But they're not going to move back.
I think
right?
Texas.
Where's Texas going to go?
I think Texas probably lands at 8 or 9, somewhere in there.
You can't put them in front of Oregon and Washington, though. They probably dropped to 10 because Notre Dame lost. Bama shouldn't move up, but in front of Texas, obviously, because they beat them head-to-head.
I mean, we're watching this right now. With that logic, let's say USC ends up closing this out. Does USC move? Is this kind of a Texas-Wyoming effect where USC gets a scoreline and a victory, and they move up to number 8?
Yeah, they probably do. Like USC's up 21-20. Late in the third.
Texas would murder this USC team.
Maybe USC wins this game by 3 touchdowns and covers the spread in a game that didn't look very clean for them. No one's watching. And, yeah, they'll move up or they'll stay where they are.
Our victory today wasn't fluky. So if these voters watch this game, if you look at the ESPN win expectancy rate or whatever they do with the little chart, OU was above the line the entire game
For like
until
85% of the game.
Until Texas kicked the field goal to take the lead. There's a sharp dip, obviously all the way to Texas with 98% of winning.
Texas had a slight favor when they went ahead in the second quarter as well.
Barely.
And
then, but the rest of the game, I mean, we didn't dominate this game, but we were leading this entire game for the most part, other than 1 or 2 small spots, and this wasn't a Caleb Williams comes back and saves us type thing where Texas dominated us for 2.5 quarters.
Fluky things, like fluky turnover, weird thing.
I mean, if you want to get fluky, Texas had the blocked punt for a touchdown. They had the fake punt get them a first down and they go score on that drive. But
they didn't score on that drive, but it ends up setting up the blocked punt because after we get the ball
overall.
back.
You can look at this game and say OU deserved to win this game. They looked like the better team. This isn't, they happened to win one at the last second because they lucked out. So in that form,
and everyone talks about
that should move us up.
Bama's defense, because I mean, even prior to this game, everyone said, our defense has improved, but we're no Alabama defense, right? So what's Texas going to do to us? Well, we looked superior.
Absolutely.
Than what Bama did.
Absolutely. I said going into this game, I had an argument with someone. We are better than Alabama's defense. Statistically, we're better, and we proved it today on the field. And it's in a hostile environment too. No matter how you cut it, whoever wins OU Texas won in a hostile environment. That's the nature of that beautiful game. So I don't know. We'll see how it comes out.
Just keep winning.
Just keep winning, and it doesn't matter. So a couple of different things to talk about the future. I think when the ESPN rankings or the ESPN projections come out, we'll be something like 70-75% likely to make the playoffs. That says something. It says something about our relatively weak schedule, probably, although that's in flux. We don't know what we're looking at. Oklahoma State beat K-State on Friday.
Kansas looked good today.
Kansas looked really good today.
Kansas looked good today. So
West Virginia's still winning. So
West Virginia's still winning. They look strong. So that's in flux to see how difficult or not difficult our schedule really is.
Yeah, that was an interesting game on Friday night because
one of the high school games.
Yes, because Oklahoma State beating Kansas State, regardless of today's outcome, that really gives OU or Texas, without knowing what happened today, a leg up on it being a rematch.
Yes,
and I would say it's almost a foregone conclusion that it is going to be a rematch. It might have been anyways, but that helped a lot.
Well,
because Texas still plays Kansas State.
That's one of my questions is...
We still have Kansas on the road. This could come down to like a 2008 situation where, Texas beat us, we beat Tech, Tech beats Texas. We get the nod on that deal. This one could come down to maybe Kansas beats us, and then we run the table, Kansas runs the table, Texas runs the table. You got 3 teams with 1 loss and a little triangle of everybody beat each other. I don't know what the tiebreakers are in that situation.
It's not rankings anymore, I don't think.
So who knows what that comes down to? What if we're the ones that left out?
I think it's like
Kansas,
home and away wins or something like that, or I don't know.
Or
It's something
against top
odd.
opponents, who knows?
It's odd.
this
Yeah,
weird
it's
conference.
like opponents. Yeah.
So let's talk about the rematch. Let's assume a Texas rematch. I'm going to be a homer on it. I'm going to say that we have got a lot of things that we could work on that we can get better and will get better on. We left a lot more on the field than Texas left on the field. I like our chances a lot. I think that in a neutral environment, in Jerry World, we should be a favorite as we project out and assume that Texas and us are rematching. I think that we have the edge on them. What do you guys think?
I don't want to look that far ahead, honestly. I'm like BV right now. Each
You
week,
have to. You're not BB.
each week is a game.
You have to.
and you have to win
In
that
a rematch,
game.
well, just talk about in a rematch. What do you foresee being good or bad about that rematch?
I mean, that's so far away, just based on who knows who gets injured between now and then.
Well, let's
and
just say
all that.
let's say rosters that went into the game today.
We're the better team. We proved it today. And we led the whole game.
I hate rematches because
Yeah.
it really is difficult to beat the same team twice. It really is.
But I tell you, people say that, but that's just because it's difficult to beat difficult teams twice. It's also difficult to win against a team that beat you and a team that really, truly beat you. And we really, truly beat them. And one thing that helps in a motivational factor is we beat them by 4 points today. We didn't beat them by 30 points. And so we've got every reason to believe that we're going to have to prepare and fight in that rematch versus any player who wants to think, oh, I've got this in the bag, and let's look ahead to the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think with that, I mean, this team is building on itself week in and week out. You look back to a season like 2008 where you got to go beat Missouri twice, once in the regular season and then once in the Big 12 title game again. And similar vibes there for me. I think, Steve, to exactly what you're saying, that ascendance that we have, and I don't know, I've seen a couple of quotes come out from Venable's postgame. I'm going to go back and watch some of it, but what he's saying about we have all of the pieces, we have everything that we need. To get a guy like Brent Venables to say that,
Right.
is I don't think he's not
saying that.
he's not BSing us. Brent Venables is notorious for his coach speak, but that is something that I do not
His
think
coach speak goes the other way.
Yeah, he would not say that unless he felt like that was the case.
Yeah, I think you're
And I think if we continue on this winning, I mean, we have two interesting games coming up. We have UCF, which is going to be a really good primer for the game up in Lawrence in a few weeks. If you can go into Lawrence and make a statement, you're setting up for a November that is, I mean, you can just take off. And I'm going to sit here, I'm going to say it. I have expectations at this point of not only making it to the conference championship, winning the conference championship, and making the playoff.
Yeah, you have to.
I think that
The numbers are there.
That's the bar at this point. So,
Well,
anyways.
I think you have to. I think you have to look at it from that standpoint. We have to now seriously get serious about talking about national championship opportunities. And this is a team who's got their sights set on that, and I think they've got every attitude about getting better. And look at what we did in just the one example from last year. We got better as the year went on, even though we got weak because of our lack of depth. We got better in many facets. And the one facet that we fell short was defense, and we're already there.
Yep.
So I think we're going to get stronger and better and smarter about what we do, and we've got a lot of time to work through and get better. So let's talk about record. Are we going to revise our record predictions? I am. We're going to be 12-0. Our regular season record's going to be 12-0. I'm going from 11-1 to 12-0. What do you guys got?
I'm going from 10-2 to 11-1. I don't think there's any team out there in the conference that's better than us, but this is Oklahoma, and it's super hard to go undefeated, as we've proven over time.
winning is hard.
Winning is hard, and so
Winning all your games
one
is
of those
hard.
games that you're not expecting jumps up and bites you, or a couple calls go the opposite direction, or
Bounce of
a
the football.
turnover here and there. I think we could still lose one, so I'll say 11-1 is my revised record.
I'll adjust mine up as well to 11-1, with a strong caveat that I'm very tempted to go Steve's route and go up to that 12-0.
So I
after
think
what
none
saw
of us.
today.
Well, go ahead, Jay. Tell me.
Agreed. I'll move up a game for the same reasons Lucas alluded to. Every year, college football fans sit around and right this time of year we're looking at it and we're like, there's only 4 teams make the playoffs and there's 9 teams that look like they're going to go undefeated, and it never happens.
Right.
So
So I'll look at it from this standpoint of probability. I'll say that I think we're going to win an expected value of 11.7 games, and that rounds up to 12-0. I will not be surprised if we go to 11-1. I don't think any of you guys will be surprised if we go 12-0. I think we'll actually be surprised if we lose 2 games at this point.
Yeah.
Because we just got past.
I'll be more
the team
disappointed
that was
than
gonna beat
surprised.
us.
I'll be
Yeah,
disappointed
at
if
this
we
point
lose
we
2
lose 2 games. I'll be very disappointed.
Yeah.
It would have to be a major injury,
yeah.
or several injuries.
Bounces of the football, weird stuff. Weird stuff has to happen. So,
How was it fishing today, guys?
it was. I'll say this: this conference is so damn rinky-dink. I feel like the lack of professionalism and the lack of knowing what the hell they're doing is just evident in their indecisiveness and their, lack of making the call on the field the way it probably should be, and then in a reversal coming out and saying the wrong thing, even though you're maybe arguably making the right call, you're saying it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I love the fumble.
The punt. Yeah, the fumble.
It
what
was
the
very
What was the
frustrating.
play that we caught a pass and they went to review it, and it was
Yeah,
plain as day.
Angelo
that
Anthony
we
caught it. Yeah, it was.
It was plain as day, and next
Slow
thing you know,
down our
they-
momentum. It slowed down
Yeah,
our
that's-
pace. It
that's-
They
slowed-
stopped it to
that's-
review
yeah.
it, and I was like, "What are they reviewing?" He clearly caught that ball.
They didn't get the spot of the ball right. They were having to reconfirm that.
That's my biggest complaint of the day. I mean, from an overall calls made or missed, I didn't see a ton where I was just like, that's a blatant miscall. Or I'm sure there was some times that I was yelling holding because that's just what I do and
No,
what
I think
fans
we,
do.
I think we missed some.
I mean, I think, but and maybe
And they
even so
missed
on the
it
other
on us.
side,
Did
on the
either
other
team?
side as
I don't
well.
think
So
either team got an offensive holding call.
I don't
No,
think so
no,
either.
there
But
wasn't.
And no, we did. Ethan Downs. No, I'm sorry. On the end around, we just reach out and grab a guy, and it was called. It was an unnecessary, and it was so blatant they had to call it. Verify me, but I think.
Well,
we
that was a
did get
defensive
one.
holding.
No, I think it was an offensive holding that was
okay.
clearly an offensive.
But
holding.
my biggest complaint today was the amount of time it took them when they were going to reviews to make the call that ended up being made or reversed or whatever else. Way too much time spent looking with that referee looking at the replay. It's been one of our biggest complaints. I think it's a big complaint around the sport in general. But man, today was brutal. Like, I understand trying to get the right call. It does not take a lot if you have someone in your ear and you're looking at a screen to say yes or no. And my biggest thing, the play stands when it's called on the field if there's not sufficient evidence.
Yeah.
And that happened with the fumble specifically. I mean, how are you going to go into that and say there's more than enough evidence to overturn that call? It makes no sense to me. So, again, Steve, you used the term. It's very, very accurate. It's a rinky-dink. It's AAC stuff, and I think that is the route that not only the conference but the officiating in this conference is headed.
And I think Texas got screwed on that late hit on Gabriel. On that, I don't think that
when
was
Gabriel.
penalty.
I think it was.
Went to slide.
I think
That
it
I
was-
don't think so.
I
That's
think
bang bang play.
He slid so late.
Yep, I think that was a bad call.
That guy
But
was a
is
half
it-
a foot away from him
No.
when he
I
started
think by
sliding.
rule, if you hit him, it's a late hit.
But it's if you go to hit him after he starts his slide, it's not after he's on the ground.
I know, but it looked bang bang. Like
It
the
was
guy.
so-
I haven't
the
seen
guy
the replay.
went
It
to
was
hit him
so
as he
close.
goes down to
But
slide.
I think
I didn't like that call at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I think by rule that
Okay,
is
maybe
the
I don't
right
like
call.
the rule then because it just.
But maybe
was
you're right.
too-
Maybe it was too bang bang and
too-
it shouldn't have been.
Regardless, we'd be pissed off, right, if it was
Yeah.
called on us.
Oh, I'd be
so.
pissed off if I saw Ethan Downs standing over my player, yelling
Barking
at
in
him the
his
way he
face.
did, and
Yeah.
not get a call.
Yeah.
And then when the ref
2 times.
makes a call against Trace Ford and throws Trace Ford off the guy and trips him, I don't understand what the hell's going on there. I don't know what was said.
Well, and that's such a
But
pivotal
that-
thing in such a high emotion-driven game at that point.
You've let it go
is-
to that point, and then
is-
you're going to
unless
call it.
unless Trace Ford is sitting there trying to gouge his eyes out between his face mask or is rubbing his face into the ground, you don't make a call there. You pull him off and say, "Hey,
Stop it.
stop, get back," and then you go about it. I mean, I think it's stuff like that. And when you talk about Ethan Downs, from what we see, did much worse than that
And didn't get
twice and doesn't get called for it right in front of the ref.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's so subjective. So, anyways.
I'm very frustrated by the officiating, and it's not just us.
And I'm going to continue to
So
bitch
many
about
people
it.
are-
I'm
so
going to
many
continue to
people are
complain
saying
about it. I will.
Everyone sees it. Everyone's frustrated, and it's going to be so good to get into a better league. Leave this stuff behind.
We're 6-0 though, man.
We're 6-0, guys. We got everything in front of us.
We've covered all 6 games.
We have
Yeah,
covered
that's shocking.
every game. We're going to be favored every game for the regular season here on out.
They went on the radio the other, I want to say Friday. They went through and listed. I don't remember if it was Bovada or whoever had projected the lines for every single game for the rest of the season going into this game, and we were a double-digit favorite in every single game. It was between one game was 10, and then it might have been Kansas on the road was 10, and then all the rest were 13 to 17 point favorite.
I see it
in every game.
I see it.
And that was with this game not being played.
Those are accurate lines, and they'll be tough to cover in some cases, but I see it. I think we're
Yeah.
that good.
I agree.
It's
Kansas rushed
exciting.
for 400 yards against UCF today.
They won't rush for 400 against us.
Nope.
Well, but hopefully we
hopefully
rush for 400 against
if we can
UCF.
I'd love
2
to
weeks.
see. We'll do that pregame UCF pod week after next, but we really better if Kansas rushed for 400, we better get 2 or 250.
We better bury them.
Yeah.
I mean, and that this is in the past. This has been a letdown game for us.
after.
I'm very,
Well,
very.
I
I'm
think
very.
In the Stoops era, he was undefeated the week
Yeah,
coming
the
off
week
of
after,
Texas.
yeah.
In
I'm
fact,
very
some of them
glad.
were just phenomenal wins.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to beat the bye team.
I think this bye comes at a perfect time.
I
You think
think-
we'll
I-
go
I
1-0
think-
in the bye?
I think we're like a perfect record against the spread and straight up against the bye team. So I think it comes at a perfect time. It gives us a chance to get healthy. It gives us a chance to figure out who we want to be, where we want to be. I'm excited. I am sky high. I'm real optimistic.
It was
Yeah.
a long day, and I didn't even go to Dallas and back.
It was a damn long day for those of us who went, and it was an early alarm.
What
I'll tell
food
you
did
that.
y'all eat today at the fair? Anything? Corn dog? Get your
I
Fletchers?
had a corn dog. Didn't get. You should have seen the Fletcher's line, man.
Oh, really?
I mean, they had ropes.
You couldn't see it
For
from
how-
the end of the earth. It was curving over.
was
What time did
unreal.
y'all get to the fair?
We got there early. We got
I
there
thought the
about
earth was flat.
8:20, 8:30.
well, it's arguable.
And you still couldn't get a corn dog at 8:30?
That was
we
so.
don't want a corn dog at 8:30.
So most of the stuff.
I was drinking
That's
beer at
when you get a
8:30.
corn dog.
So I got dropped off. We got separated at one point. I got dropped off at the front of the fair on the Texas side, and food options
At about 8.
at about 8:15
You didn't
ish.
take the dart?
We
We
did.
took the dart, but it was not nearly as efficient.
Oh,
as it
it's
usually
Oh,
is.
I heard there was
It
some horror stories today.
It was
it was
bad.
bad.
The
It was
ride back
really,
was
really bad.
really bad.
But,
They're messing that up, man.
All the food over there was pretty much open because we were there so early. So Shelby got some like twisted potatoes on a stick, which were really good. Tried a walking taco, which was solid. I drank a copious amount of beer without having to
That was a
wait.
coupon situation. Did they still have the booths, or was it automated?
Both.
Both.
Okay. That's
We did
good.
the
It was
automated
not
route.
hard to get
Yeah, it was
coupons.
easy,
That's
and
good.
yeah, people freak out about that, but they've.
It is.
That's one thing they
frustrating.
actually have gotten a little bit more efficient
Yeah.
about in the past few years.
But it's still expensive. Those damn coupons are $1 a piece.
The
And
game day set looked phenomenal. There were
I didn't-
thousands
I didn't see the
of
game day
people.
set.
oh, it was incredible. looking.
Thousands of people
It
behind.
was. We saw it when we were walking in, looking down from the ramps, and
Yep.
it was tremendous.
How about Baker Mayfield, the only one on College game day to pick OU, and we win. I
So
love
we,
that guy.
We saw Baker.
I
He
love
drove
him.
in. We were there where we always are to see the teams roll in on the buses. We gave them hell. The bands came through. I told that Texas band how bad they suck. I was right in their face.
Yeah,
right on the
they
lines.
sucked so bad they didn't play.
They did not play their.
They did
music.
not play their music on the way into the stadium.
The
today.
Sooners damn
Good.
sure did. The Sooners were awesome.
They weren't working on the
Sooner-
railroad, huh?
They weren't. Sooner band was tremendous, and then we saw Baker roll in. He was passing out T-shirts out of his SUV. It was very, very cool. It was a fun, awesome atmosphere, like it always is. Very, very crowded, extremely dangerous. If there's ever a situation, it's going to be tragic. They need to work on that, but otherwise, it was a magical atmosphere for sure. That's why my voice is the way it is.
Oh, we
because
yelled a lot today.
we yelled a
We
lot
yelled a lot
today.
today.
We yelled a lot.
We appreciate your patronage.
We yelled a lot before we even went into the
Yeah,
stadium.
my voice was gone by the time I was in the stadium. For
It
sure.
was pretty rough. But guys, it is 12:17 a.m. and Texas still sucks.
And they still suck.
Yep.
They still suck.
We'd like to give a shout out to Tobacco Exchange, our wonderful sponsor for the post game. We're going to be here for the bye week, midweek pod, and then after that we've got UCF in the back half of the schedule. We're 6-0. We're riding high. We think we're going to be top 5. We think we're a top team. We're going to make the playoff. We got everything in front of us. Anything else to cover, guys?
I think that's it.
Boomer?
Sooner.